After lunch on July 20, 1973, Bruce Lee was meeting with Raymond Shaw, his producer and partner, to discuss his latest film. They worked until 16 o'clock and then headed to the home of Betty Tin Pei, a Taiwanese actress. The three of them went over the script. Before the producer left, they arranged to have dinner with Lee at 21 at a downtown restaurant. After 18, Bruce complained of an intense headache and the actress gave him an Aquaxi, a pill previously prescribed by his doctor. The martial artist drank some soft drinks and an hour and a half later decided to go to bed because the headache would not go away. At 21:15, Shaw calls Tin Pei to ask for Bruce Lee, who was 15 minutes late. Waiting for the answer to his question, he was met with a hysterical response. Bruce won't wake up. I don't know what's wrong, but Bruce won't wake up. She was right. Bruce was not going to wake up. And that's when his intense coma began.
But I'm willing to give it a try. Nothing compares to you. Nothing compares.
Could it be that the medication was the cause of her death? Did the actress have something to do with it? Or was it simply a family curse? We will see all this and much more in this video. That's why, as always, we invite you to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any video we upload from now on. Are you ready? Well, then it's time for a little time travel, precisely to the morning of November 27, 1940, at Jackson Street Hospital in San Francisco, the place where the dragon was born in the very year of the golden dragon of the Chinese calendar. The omens were on his side. Although his features looked Oriental, he was born in the United States. His real name was Li Hun Fan, but his parents called him Saifan, which means little dragon or phoenix. I will tell you later why. The name Bruce came later so as not to create problems with the American birth certificate. When he was 3 years old, he moved with his family to Hong Kong. The context was not good. Until 1945, they lived with the occupation as a daily occurrence because of World War II. Bruce's father, Lee Hoi Chuen, was an actor and comedian. When the bombing stopped, they returned to the recording studio, with the particularity that he was accompanied by his son. Bruce first acted unknowingly when he was just 2 months old, playing a baby in the movie Golden Gay Girl. He then went on to make his career from a very young age, with more than 20 films on his resume. The little dragon Lee gained a lot of experience to leave an impeccable foundation in his history. He studied in different institutions, and in some he was expelled for bad behavior. The recesses were to fight against his classmates, until he came across a band that marked his bad memories of that time. From that moment on, he became interested in martial arts. He was 13 years old when he trained and practiced Tai Chi with his father. As the months went by, Wing Chun style became part of his training thanks to Master Ip Man, known today thanks to his 4 movies starring Donnie Yen. Bruce Lee entered a school boxing tournament and defeated 3-time champion Gary Elms in the 3rd round by knockout. Being a winner was becoming a habit. Along with the fights, he took dance lessons, and there he also became champion, but in cha-cha-cha. In 1959, Bruce competed again and ended up with a slight injury to his face. But his opponent was left unconscious and without teeth after his well-known fast punches. The problem was that he ended up being reported by his competitor's parents. Bruce was sent to his sister in San Francisco. By then, he had finished high school. The future was in his hands. Until he was 18, he was dedicated to martial arts and training. When he was in the United States, he also focused on training the mind. He studied philosophy at the University of Washington and managed to finance his career by working as a kitchen assistant in a Chinese restaurant and in various newspapers. Lee practiced Kung Fu, which, unlike Wing Chun, was dominated by the use of the legs. He continued to make a living by giving classes in small places in the city, and there he used the wooden dummy, so well known in his films. In this way, he intensified his personal training, which, added to the classes he gave, made his body a machine. When many students joined him in 1963, he had to open his first martial arts school, the Hun Fan Kung Fu Institute in Seattle, and sometime later, he opened 2 more schools in Oakland and Los Angeles. His style combined everything he had been through: boxing, Western fencing, judo, Filipino fencing, Muay Thai, and Tang Soo Do, which he learned from his friend, actor Chuck Norris. As Lee's mind and body had no limits, he developed his own style of martial art called Het Kung Do, or also called the Way of the Receiving Fist, an advanced fighting technique with an incredible evolution for the time. But things happen for a reason, and in 1964, in addition to marrying his beautiful girlfriend, he had the opportunity to enter the world of the big screen. Ed Parker, founder of the well-known American Karate Camp, had already made a name for himself when he brought Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley to stardom. This man organized an international karate championship in Long Beach, and Bruce Lee was one of his guests at the demonstrations. Lee did 2-finger push-ups and demonstrated the power of the 1-inch punch. Buck Barker was on the receiving end of Bruce's blows. After the demonstration, he had to stay home and couldn't go to work because of the pain he felt. In that championship, he met Dan Inosanto, who was part of his sparring team, and seeing the power that Lee wielded, he decided to accompany him wherever he went. He would later become its first certified student at the Fangun Fu Institute in Los Angeles. Today, Dan Inosanto is fully certified to teach Lee's style. But as I was telling you, Bruce Lee kept receiving several invitations from people who wanted to fight him to measure themselves and draw their own conclusions about his fighting power. The most important story, told by his family and his opponents, was against Wong Yak Man of the traditional Chinese community. They no longer wanted me to teach Kung Fu to the Chinese, because clearly they were all going to train with Lee. The one who challenged him was the direct student of Maki Fon, known to be a master of Xin Ji Quan and Wushu. First, she had warned him to stop teaching, but he hadn't listened. Wong Yak Man, a Shaolin-style coach, set a date for the match. The rules were simple. If Bruce lost, he would have to stop teaching foreigners and close his schools. If he won, he would be free to teach anyone. There were other theories that Lee had invited him to fight, but in the end, the result was going to be the same. On the day of the fight, Lee made it clear that the fight would be without rules. Lee's wife recounted in her book Bruce Lee, The Man Only I Know, that Yak Man, after taking a few blows, was hit by the dragon. It knocked him down and pinned him down, delivering repeated blows to his head. Lee, seeing that all was said and done, asks him 3 times in Cantonese, "Is that enough?" And received as an answer, "Yes, that's enough." Other voices said Yak Man attacked first, and Bruce responded with 3 straight fists, although only the first one clearly hit his jaw. This one moved away and then attacked Lee again, reaching his jaw. This caused Lee to react, and he lunged after him, who seemed to be running away. Bruce attacked him so hard that his fists swelled up. He then cornered him and surrendered. Was Lee happy with the result? Well, yes and no at the same time. As for him, it had taken him a long time to win. And yes, he was very demanding of himself. so he decided to improve his physical condition and thus evolve Kung Fu, which would later become Head Kung Do. Traveling through Lee's life, we approach the year 1965, a significant moment for the martial artist. On February 1, he and his wife Linda gave birth to Brandon. Life gave him a special little person, but sadly, 6 days later, his father left this world forever. After his father's funeral, as if living in an intense balance, Ed Parker invites him to audition for Hollywood with William Dossier, the producer of the Batman series. For those who don't know it, it was a huge success. He signed a contract and at the same time began drama classes at the 20th Century Fox studio. He needed to make the most of the situation. He was a person who always knew what he wanted, and his father's legacy was now in his hands. He was very hopeful about the project, but it was put on hold. A year later, the program that would show him to the world would arrive. In February of 1966, Bruce played Kato in the television series The Green Hornet. With all the fame growing and proving that his improvisations were getting all the attention on the show, he and his family moved to Los Angeles. Bruce was a hit, and it went beyond the screen. American audiences loved the way he fought. Every scene made it explosive. The series lasted 1 season and ended a year later. Likewise, Bruce had a participation with his character Kato in 3 episodes of the Batman series, which I mentioned before. During 1967, he opened another institute, the Hanfang Fu, in Los Angeles' Chinatown. Bruce Lee preferred to keep it anonymous while he continued acting. Despite his incredible physique, he suffered from vision problems. Thanks to that problem, he did not go to the U.S. military service, and outside of the film set and paparazzi cameras, he wore glasses. He was also one of the first people in history to wear contact lenses. In 1970, he injured a sacral bone in her back during weight training. He had to do extreme rehabilitation. He was unable to move for 6 months. At that time, he dedicated himself to studying and writing notes that would be published after his death as the Tao of Jet Kune Do. The doctor told him he would never walk again, but Lee not only achieved that, but his fights were as incredible as before. He wrote the screenplay for The Silent Flood, and in 1971, Bruce had the Warrior movie in mind. The projects were approved, but they changed many aspects that he wanted to keep. Together with Warner Brothers, they took the idea of the Warrior forward, and they changed its name to Kung Fu. But, as you might be thinking, he wasn't going to be the lead actor, but David Carradine, who knew nothing about Kung Fu, but had something that Bruce Lee didn't have. Yes, Western features. 100% racism. Other people in the media say that he was not the creator, nor did he have the idea for the series. On the one hand, he lost, but on the other hand, he won. On his trip to Hong Kong, he learned that thanks to his performance, people stopped calling the series the Green Hopscotch for Kato's show. Once settled in Hong Kong, Bruce traveled to Thailand to work on his first film, The Big Boss, or, as it came to be known, Karate to the Death in Bangkok. Before starting, Lee told the director, "I'm going to be the biggest Chinese star in the world." 6 weeks after the film was finished, and he was quite tired from the conditions in which he had filmed. The film was a success and grossed over $3 million. Bruce was a national hero in China. He was a star in real life and in fiction. Bruce turned down big proposals and embarked on a new project. He wanted to direct his own films. They partnered with Shaw, and together they set up Concord Production, Inc. On the film Return of the Dragon, Bruce was actor, screenwriter, co-producer, and director. He did it all. He even did the percussion on the theme song for the soundtrack. Yes, quite the all-rounder. They filmed in Rome with the enormous Chuck Norris. The Roman Colosseum was once again used for the fight of the century. Bruce was offered $500,000 to act and co-direct Enter the Dragon. That was the first Chinese martial arts film to be produced by him in Hollywood. But there were problems with the translations of the script and the US team's meals that he didn't want to eat. In addition, he suffered a cut from a bottle and was bitten by a cobra. But if his accident with the weights didn't stop him, that wasn't going to stop him. He was so anxious that he wanted to finish his play, but the truth was that he didn't make it to the premiere alive. But we'll talk more in detail about that later. The film grossed $200 million, ranking second worldwide behind The Exorcist. In this way, Bruce Lee and his post-fame invaded the American public. On the morning of July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee woke up with his usual energy. As I told you at the beginning, he had some meetings with producers, and when it got dark, Bruce Lee went to bed, never to wake up. But how did Bruce Lee really die? Far from his mythical dreams and fights against lethal competitors, the actor and martial artist died among mysteries and strange events. Lee had collapsed in the bathroom of the production company. He was then rushed to the emergency room where headaches and convulsions took over his body. Doctors reported that it was due to cerebral edema, a condition in which excess fluid in the brain causes swelling and pain. He was injected with mannitol and improved on the spot. Within hours, he was training again and eating as he used to, on a healthy diet. The other part of the story you already know. When he failed to wake up from his nap, they called the doctor, who spent 10 minutes trying to revive him. They tried to take him to the hospital, but by that time, he was dead. According to the autopsy, death was due to severe brain swelling. His brain had grown by no less than 13%. The producer blamed it on the medication he was given, but lied at the scene of death. He claimed that the star had died at home with his wife, but this was not true. His wife asked that no one speculate about the tragic event to safeguard the respect for the figure of her late husband. It was soon learned that this was not the case. He was at the home of actress Betty Tinpei. Although several subsequent investigations supported the final report, several conspiracy theories surfaced. Rumors quickly traveled around the world. Supposedly a prostitute with whom he had become violent had poisoned him. The rumor claimed that Lee was under the influence of a powerful aphrodisiac that made him lose control. Other people said that Betty Tinpei had poisoned him. She theoretically worked for a secret society that wanted Bruce Lee dead. Other theories blamed the Italian, Chinese, and American mafia, even his relatives. Everything was said, but what always came back to people's mouths was the Lee family curse. The legend of the Lee family curse came to light 20 years after the death of the famous martial artist, when the only son, Brandon Lee, died on the set of the movie The Raven. But what does this supposed curse have to do with anything? Well, there is an answer in his movie Dragon, where mysticism had the leading role. In it, the actor fights against something strange. In the final scene, Bruce Lee confronts the ghost. The creature gives up without a fight because it prefers to go and stalk his son Brandon. 2 weeks before the release of that film, Brandon Lee died during the filming of The Raven. Esoteric theories could not be missing. According to Linda, Bruce Lee had a premonition. He said he would not live half as long as his father, who died at 64. Just twice as old as Lee was on the day of his death. Theoretically, the curse came with his birth. The lineage had been broken because he was born after the death of his older brother. According to a Chinese superstition, it is said that when a male is born after the death of a male sibling, he should be named after a female. That is why when Bruce was born, he was called Sai-Fon Little Phoenix. As an actor, Lee defied the curse by adopting his other name. It was also rumored that Bruce Lee had been a victim of the death touch, the Dinmek hit used against him days earlier. He is survived today by his wife Linda Cadwell and daughter Channon Emery Lee, who continue to maintain and promote the legacy through the Bruce Lee Foundation. Many things were said, but what is known is that Bruce Lee was an outstanding American martial artist, actor, filmmaker, philosopher, and writer. His dragon claw will be marked for years to come. His legacy is important and holds a great place in martial arts throughout the world. He was responsible for blending the East with the West, always with art and philosophy. After his death, the Chinese industry did everything to supplant him, even to clone him with similar actors. But no one could match him. His impeccable technique, as well as his acts of dexterity, are not for everyone. The magazines dedicated to martial arts also fell into the overexploitation of his figure, revealing his techniques, training, personal life, blows, thoughts, and countless other details. Monuments in his honor filled the streets of different countries. In March he was posthumously awarded the Golden Lifetime Achievement Award of the Hong Kong film industry. It should not be forgotten that he was a hero in China. There are movies, series, cartoons, books, documents, and videos like this one talking about his life and death. In them, we highlight his life as the great man Bruce Lee was. It was not so easy to slay a dragon. It is even thought that he is not dead, but lives on in his eternal legacy.
And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without